President Trump took questions from two Kurdish journalists during his press conference at the United Nations Wednesday, and the way he addressed those journalists sparked some backlash.
Yes, please, Mr. Kurd.
And when he called me Mr. Kurd, that is a very, very positive message for us.
Rahim Rashidi is the DC bureau chief for Kurdistan 24 and a reporter for Kurdistan TV. Thanks to Trump, he's also known to the world as Mr. Kurd, a title he says he's proud of.
When he called Mr. Kurd, for me, that's mean a lot. He respect me. He recognize my nations.
And Rashidi isn't the only Kurdish journalist who feels the same way. Namo Abdullah, the DC bureau chief for Kurdish media outlet Rudaw, also didn't find Trump's use of Mr. Kurd offensive.
Kurdish identity has been denied in the Middle East for at least a century. So when you call somebody Mr. Kurd, for a Kurdish person, that is recognizing that identity that has long been denied by different Middle Eastern governments.
He said before something, okay, he loved the Kurds, he loved the Peshmerga, they are good fighters, but this is not enough for us. Our identity, our nationality, our language, our cultures, all the time denied, under attack by Turkish government, by Iranian government, by Syrian government, honestly, by Iraqi governments too.
From the reactions I've seen on social media from the Kurdish people, it was an indirect message to the dictators in the Middle East, to President Erdogan of Turkey, to Khamenei in Iran, to Bashar Assad in Syria. Maybe President Trump didn't mean to send that message, but it was a message that Kurdish identity does exist. Kurdish people do exist, and their rights must be recognized.
In his actual answers, Trump effusively praised the Kurdish people for their role in the fight against the so-called Islamic State in Syria, or ISIS. Kurdish militias in Syria have been one of the most reliable U.S. proxies for pushing back ISIS, and the U.S. has offered military aid to those groups in return. But for Kurds in the region, the next big question is what will happen after the fight against ISIS is concluded.
They died for us and with us and for themselves. We don't forget. I don't forget what happens someday later, but I can tell you that I don't forget.
His answer was very, very great and powerful for Kurdistan. We have a scary situation because U.S. foreign policy is not much clear for us, and his message is very, very powerful, very positive, and make it clear and more than clear for us and for our enemy. Okay, don't think U.S. will leave quickly. U.S. wanted to stay here.
So there's actually a huge fear among the Kurds that once the fight against the Islamic State is over, which is, we were almost there, the Kurds will be disposable. And the United States will pull out of the Middle East, and then the Kurds will be left to the mercy of these authoritarian governments. You don't really have a lot of pro-American forces in that part of the world. The Kurdish people stand out as one of the most pro-American forces. They're liberal, they're secular, women and men fight on the front lines against ISIS.
Kurds should have something over there for stability and for stop, come back terrorism and organization like ISIS. But that will be very, very bad for U.S. national security as well. If you look at, okay, bye-bye. We use you as tools. We don't need you anymore.
The Kurdish people, I think, would even be happy to see a permanent U.S. military base in both Iraq and Syria. They see that as a safeguard against all the hostile powers or regimes in the Middle East.